Okay, so as part of the challenge, we have to show how we painted a model. And what I've done is I've done all the base colours on this first. So what I've done when I started this one, try and bring it a little bit closer. I got my trusty camera lady with me. So the silver, struggling to focus in there, but I'm sure you can see. The silver here, or the chain mail, as people call it, but it's called mail, was painted with lead belcher. The blue was painted with Calidor Sky. The quillions, pommel, and the quillions and pommel of the sword and the dagger were all painted in Retributor armor. The scabbard was painted with Rhinox hide. The belts all along there, the handle for the sword, the handle for the dagger were all painted in, a bit hard to see that, but that says Mornfang brown. And of course, like the other Templar in the diorama and the other guy in yellow like this, the face was painted with a very classic bronze flesh. Now, what I will be doing in a minute is giving the whole model a wash of Agrath Earthshade, and then when it comes to highlighting, I would then go over the chainmail or mail with the lead belcher, and then I'd then do a final highlight like this for an old paint, mithril silver. That's still going strong, unlike some of the paints today that Games Workshop do dry out too fast. The blue I'd go over with the Calidor Sky again, and then I'd mix in a bit of ice blue. This is quite watered down anyway, so you know, thin your paints, and then I'd pick up some of the highlights just on the edges of the circle. I'd then re-go over the quillions and pommel with the Retributor armor, and then I'd mix a little bit of mithril silver in that to give that another highlight. Touch in the Rhinox hide, and then I'd tend to either mix in a bit of vomit brown or a bit of white, depends how I feel. I think on the actual models I mixed in the brown. Belts, again, go over with that, and then mix in a bit of vomit brown to lighten that up a little bit. And then with the face, bleach bone, and with the bleach bone I just add, hands getting in the way there, a bit of skull white just to give it the final highlight. So then I'm focusing on highlighting all the edges of the models here, the edges of the swords, and of course just tiny dabs on the nose and the cheeks. So all I'm going to do now for you, so you can see me painting, just going to give it a quick wash, and then we'll be back once this is all dry. So it's not a massively thick coat I give it, really just to give a bit of colour to the chainmail more than anything else. And the reason as reenactors we get a little bit annoyed that you call it chainmail because it derives from the French word chain. That's what mail basically means. So when you say chainmail, you're actually saying mail. So if ever you go and see in America, you go to Renaissance fairs, and in England, if you ever see reenactors, if you want to wind them up, you can call it chainmail, but if you want to be nice, just call it mail. And all these links are all individually done by hand, mostly by children. It's wire fed through to drag it out to make it smaller and smaller and smaller, and then the ends are individually flattened and a very small pin or rivet is put through. So a really expensive suit would have a pin in each one. A cheaper suit, it'd be probably a pin, maybe one every 4, but every ring goes through another 4 rings, so all interlocks. It's quite flexible. I've worn it myself. So, and you can move around in it. It does get heavy after a while though, but that will do. So what we'll do is we'll let that dry. It's a bit hard to see, it's not the best setup I've got here. We'll let that dry, and then we'll come back and I'll show you maybe a little bit of the highlighting and then the finished model. This one in particular won't be going on the diorama because actually the diorama is finished, so I'm just showing you how I painted the others on the diorama. Okay, so see you soon. Okay, so here we are. This is the completed model, all with the highlights. See if I can bring that in a bit better. So you've got the highlights there on the cloak, highlighted the male, and I should have said in an earlier video, I said male, but it's pronounced chain because you're saying chain male, chain, but you'll understand that if you watch the previous bit. So I've highlighted the sword. It's really hard to focus, sorry guys. So highlighted the sword, the quillions, the leather and the scabbard, the helmet as well. Took ages, you won't be able to see unless I take a photo of the eyes. Even put the moustache in as well. So that's led me to my finished product. I'm going to put photos in at the end of this. So the idea was, like we said, it's a autumnal theme, or as this was set in America, our American cousins call it fall. So the scene had to be set in the fall, and I thought, well, what on earth could be set in the fall? So I've done some digging around for history because it had to be historical, and of course you know full well we do mostly fantasy, and any historical stuff we do in the desert. So in the end, found out in the fall the Templar order fell. So what I've done here is got one Templar making his last stand. If you notice, there's one last leaf to fall off the tree as well. So he's about to be killed by these 4 knights, which is sad really for him. Now I've got to be honest with you, this is taking me right out of my comfort zone. I even had to make the base, which has been some foam cards stuck on, chamfered down, covered in filler, smoothed off with a wet finger, and then painted. The tree's been glued on as well, and the roots, so you can see them, the roots there are just from another tree, so I've just snipped them off, glued them on, give the illusion of roots coming through there. And then what I've done is, what I've got here for the grass, the fallen leaves, I've mixed in with other flock, so it all kind of filters through and it gets less as we get further away from the tree. So that for me was right out of my comfort zone, because I've never really done anything like this before. So I'm quite happy with how it's turned out. I've already seen some of the other entries and they're really good. I've enjoyed the experience. I've learned a lot about my painting, and definitely thin your paints, which is something I've really never done a lot of, but you get a lot more control once it's thinned down. So I have learned something from this more than anything else. Really enjoyed doing it, to be fair. It's nice to buy different models that aren't 40k or desert or DAC, Africa Core. So yeah, so what we'll do is there'll be a list of the fellow participants in the comments, and I'll put some stills up after this video. But good luck to everybody else who's taken part. Cheers for now.